Amain was an antisocial loser with zero friends, finding what little joy he had rotting in his daily routine. But everything flipped when he accidentally saved the depressed girl next door and dropped some unexpected riz in the process. Now she's obsessed, in love, and handing him the happiness he never thought he deserved. This soggy gremlin of a man, Fujimiya, had no business getting involved. He wasn't good-looking, or nice, or even passably clean. He was the kind of guy whose only relationship was with his futon. But there she was, Shina Mahiru, the perfect girl, the untouchable queen of the school. Angel Sama herself, dripping wet on a swing in the rain like she was auditioning for a heartbreak commercial. He approached her like a mole peeking out of its dirt hole, terrified and unsure. But instead of telling him to scram, she gave him that calm, angelic sass. She didn't ask for help. She wanted to be there in the rain, apparently. Emotional masochism was strong with this one. Still, Fujimiya, this sloppy high school hermit, gave her his umbrella and dragged his soggy corpse back home. Little did he know, he just unlocked the softcore Eki route by accident. The next day, everything was back to normal. Angel Sama was still the school's untouchable goddess, serene, flawless, surrounded by orbiters too scared to breathe near her. And Fujimiya? Still a damp tissue of a man limping through the hallway, hoping nobody noticed the fever sweat soaking his undershirt. She didn't wave. She didn't say hi. She didn't even look at him, just like always. While the other guys drooled over her from a safe, self-hating distance, Fujimiya kept walking like nothing had happened. He stepped out of the elevator like a sickly goblin returning to his den and froze. There she was, Angel Sama herself, standing right in front of his door like a divine punishment in human form, holding an umbrella and a container of soup. No lightning, no heavenly choir, just her deadpan stare and flawless face judging his existence harder than his GPA ever did. He was half delirious with fever, hair a mess, breath smelling like expired miso, and his school clothes clinging to him like a poverty badge. Meanwhile, she looked like she just floated down from a skincare commercial, not a drop of rain on her. And she was here, for him, because he gave her an umbrella in the rain, because this filthy loser played the sympathy card by accident, and now had a literal angel showing up to nurse him back to health. No guy this pathetic should get this kind of attention. But she wasn't here for flirting. She was here for retribution, with soup. Turns out, Angel Sama cooked the porridge herself. Fujimiya nearly lost it. He tried to act cool, but inside, his brain was doing somersaults. She handed him the bowl like a queen feeding a pet hamster, then told him to take his temperature. And when she walked away, he couldn't help but mutter that now he finally understood why every dude at school drooled over her. His fever was 38.3 degrees Celsius, but his ego was on life support. Still, he took the medicine, downed the porridge, and said something dumb about how good she was at cooking. Sheena clapped back that living alone made cooking a basic requirement, implying, not so subtly, that maybe he should clean his rat nest of a room once in a while. She wasn't wrong. Then he asked her the question every guy wondered in silence. Did she have a boyfriend? She stared at him like he'd just asked her to explain quantum physics while naked. The answer, no, she didn't. Never had. And she had no plans to get one either. Why not? He asked. Why would she? She snapped back. Mahiru didn't do casual flings. She didn't date losers. Especially not greasy, sniffling anime protagonists who couldn't keep their rooms clean. Fujimiya quickly apologized, but something shifted. For a moment, her perfect voice cracked just a little. She admitted she was out in the rain to cool off. Clearly something was bothering her. She even apologized for making him sick. But Fujimiya insisted it was his fault, which made what he said next even dumber. This crusty clown told her they should stop talking. Yup, he went full loser mode. He told the literal goddess next door that they were done. No more interactions. No obligations. No drama. Just strangers with umbrella trauma. Sheena didn't argue. She almost looked relieved. After all, it was probably exhausting being chased by sweaty boys every day. She asked him to stop calling her Angel Sama. He agreed, and with that, their weird, rainy connection came to a close. Or so he thought. Back at school, she was still Angel Sama to everyone else. Distant, cool, polished, surrounded by fangirls and thirst buckets. Fujimiya? He stayed in his lane, the corner lane, where the air smelled like unwashed laundry and shattered dreams. But he couldn't stop watching her, like some hopeless simp with a front row seat to a concert he didn't belong at. Back home, dinner was a calorie gel. That's right, not ramen, not rice, not even cereal, a tube of goop. Sheena caught a mid-gel squeeze and gasped in horror. You call that dinner? Before he could explain his poverty diet, she vanished and returned minutes later with a bento box of leftovers. Homemade, again, by Angel Sama. He took a bite. Delicious. Like, so good he nearly cried. She said it wasn't a big deal. just her own satisfaction. He said thanks. She told him to stop calling her Angel Sama. He apologized. Then she told him to eat better and act like a human being. He agreed, mostly out of fear. He returned the container, cleaned, like a good boy. She handed him another dinner. Just like that, Fujimiya was trapped in an accidental dinner loop with the hottest girl in school. She asked if he had allergies. He said no. She said no picky eating. He said yes, ma'am. Apparently, she made too much food anyway, so he could help her not waste it. And like that, he became her human garbage disposal. Lucky trash can. The next day, more food. The day after that, same. It became a thing, an unspoken arrangement between a goddess and a barely functioning bachelor. Fujimiya started feeling healthier. His friend Itsuki noticed, commented on how he used to look like death with a school uniform. Now, slightly less dead. Maybe it was all that homemade estrogen-laced miso soup. They bumped into each other while hunting supermarket deals. She was strategic, efficient, deadly with discounts. He was stunned. She was richer than him, but more frugal. She said it made sense. After all, she was living off her parents' allowance. He almost choked on the air. Then she flexed. She was the popular one, not him. He said she'd be cuter if she acted a little more honest. She asked if he was calling her uncute. He bailed instantly and walked off like a whipped puppy. Sheena visited his place again. Why? Because she heard the sound of something crashing while he tried to clean. Spoiler alert, he sucked at it. So she offered to clean his room. Fujimiya was stunned. Was this how porn started? Nope. She tore through his filth like a cleansing typhoon. Air conditioner vents, bottle caps, laundry baskets, cardboard. She even made him feel guilty for existing. He apologized like the spineless slug he was. After the cleaning massacre, Fujimiya was exhausted, too tired to cook. So pizza. Sheena was surprised. His first time with delivery? Turns out his house used to have a maid. A maid. This half-dead gremlin was actually rich? She shrugged, told him to eat as much as he wanted. He did. She watched him like a zoo exhibit. He didn't need to be charming, he said. She agreed, but added, his school version was more draining than this honest mess. He asked if pretending to be perfect was exhausting. She said she'd been doing it since she was a kid. He said she had nerves of steel. She said he made her nervous. He apologized. Then he asked the most important question of all. Why was she giving him food every day? Her answer? I like cooking. You eat everything. You don't misunderstand. And your sad boy eating habits worried me. That was it. No secret motive. No hidden affection. Just Angel Sama doing her thing. She told him to just enjoy it. No overthinking. Just accept it like a gift from the gods. And that night, as she walked away, Fujimiya realized something terrifying. This girl, this perfect, terrifying, messy-hearted angel, lived right next door, and she had no idea she was slowly ruining his peace. In the best way possible. Life hadn't even finished beating him with a bag of social anxiety before she showed up. Angel Sama, parked like an NPC waiting for someone with a hygiene stat above 0. So why was he walking toward her like he had a plan? Spoiler, he didn't. She noticed the cat hair. Because of course she did. And like some judgmental goddess of cleanliness, she clocked him for it immediately. Then she dropped the line no teen boy should ever hear from a flawless girl. Take off your tights. His soul tried to escape his body. But no, she wasn't inviting him to a dojin fantasy. She had the twisted ankle. She had played cat savior and biffed the landing. Now he had to do basic first aid while pretending he wasn't 5 seconds from passing out. Blazer over legs. Eyes turned. Tights peeled off. And just like that, he was trapped in the most intense, non-kinky medical role play of his life. Nursing the school's goddess while trying not to explode from shame. She thanked him, like sincerely. That was new. Most girls would have either limped away in silence or called the cops mid-compress. But Sheena Mahu, this living angel, handed him a thank you with the kind of grace that could knock a man's morality loose. And for a flicker of a second, just a tiny flash, her voice dropped the whole perfect girl thing. Like she wasn't a fantasy wrapped in lace and good manners, but someone real. Of course, Amain, being the emotionally constipated gremlin he was, ruined it by bringing up her gym shorts. Her expression, pure, distilled shut up. He wisely shut up. Back at school, the illusion snapped. Angel Sama was back in full force. Untouchable, admired. The same queen surrounded by horny peasants with their noses in the clouds and brains in their pants. And Fujimiya? Same old ugly bastard. Just with bonus foot compression memories no one else would believe. She didn't wave. She didn't glance. Not a nod. Not a twitch. Not even a pixel of acknowledgement. Just like always. But maybe, just maybe, she smiled a little softer when someone thanked her for a side dish. Fujimiya was already neck deep in the angel swamp and sinking faster than his GPA. She came back, not with complaints, not to unleash holy judgment, but with side dishes. Hand-cooked, home-wrapped, heart-penetrating side dishes. Also the clothes she borrowed. Because, in case his short-circuited brain forgot, this was a girl who had showered in his apartment, worn his clothes, and somehow didn't break the space-time continuum with her presence. Her ankle? Already healing. Her popularity? Still planet-sized. Just one smile from her, and the entire school population, male and female alike, exploded into giggling freaks. Even the girls squealed like they were at a boy band concert. Fujimiya tried to play it cool. Keyword tried. He brought up the school's pretty boy prince, Katakawa, because apparently Fujimiya liked pain. But the angel didn't flinch. She wasn't drooling over Katakawa. In fact, she sounded bored. Different classes. No interest. What kind of alien life form just casually shrugs off the hottest guy in school? And then, out of nowhere, she sucker punched him with a logic nuke. If I like people based on looks alone, I'd like you. Fujimiya's brain, blue screen. She wasn't just self-aware about her beauty. She was objectively, clinically aware. And she owned it. Not in a braggy influencer way, but in an I just run on logic and aesthetic dominance sort of way. Croquettes. The girl even brought croquettes. This wasn't a domestic rom-com. This was a psychological horror. How the hell was a lonely virgin like Fujimiya supposed to survive a multi-course, emotional ambush like this? He made the mistake. He said something stupid. He said he'd love to eat her food freshly made. And like the domestic goddess of doom she was, Mahiru flipped the tables. You want to come to my house? His soul evacuated his body. But before his libido could drag him straight into horny jail, she set conditions. Split grocery costs. Cook at his place. Domestic partnership mode. Initiated. And in case he got any ideas, she'd snap his neck, fold him like laundry, and file a police report with zero regrets. This wasn't some cute Sunder warning. This was Mahiru Shina, death incarnate in a high school girl's body, promising violence with a smile. Fujimiya? He loved it. Why? Because it meant she trusted him. Because unlike every greasy grin creep at school, he passed the unspoken test. He wasn't a horn dog hero. He was a pathetic, inoffensive worm with a soul full of boundaries and a microwave untouched by human civilization. And that's exactly what she needed. Naturally, Fujimiya's brain short-circuited again. He asked the dangerous question, would a girl cook for a guy she doesn't like? Wrong move. Bad move. Stupid, lonely male move. But somehow, Mahiru didn't recoil in disgust. She explained herself, calmly, coolly, with all the emotional detachment of someone explaining why she feeds stray dogs. She liked cooking. He was unhealthy, and seeing him devour her dishes like a starving raccoon wasn't completely disgusting. But he kept pushing, so she dropped the nuke. If it bothers you, I'll stop cooking. Cue the begging, the groveling, the shame spiral of a man realizing he'd been living a better life than he deserved. He thanked her with every inch of his fragile pride. She accepted it bluntly, without mercy, and then scolded him for copying her homework. Of course she noticed. This angel had eyes sharper than a divorce lawyer's. You couldn't hide squat. Somehow, they shifted from food and flirtation to test scores and study habits. Mahiru, unsurprisingly, had mastered the entire curriculum for next year. Fujimiya, shockingly, was in the top 30. The boy had brains hidden under the mop of depression and hair gel. Barely. She even remembered his ranking from the board. This girl didn't just cook. She memorized academic rankings like she was running a student spy agency. As the night closed in, she stood to leave. Drop her ID. He returned it. And that's when Fujimiya opened the door to madness. Her birthday was coming. He asked what she wanted. She said, a sharpening stone. Because nothing says cute high school girl like obsessively refining your knife collection. And Fujimiya, to his eternal credit, did not flinch. Instead, he accepted her serial killer tendencies and started researching birthday gifts. Hand cream, sweets, plushies. He even got advice from normal people. Civilians who lived in a world where girls didn't own whetstones. He was about to cross the final line. Gift-giving, affection, intimacy. He wasn't ready. Fujimiya wasn't supposed to be out here doing errands like some whipped rom-com protagonist. He was supposed to be a sad, isolated loser who could barely make eye contact with girls, let alone buy birthday gifts for the school's untouchable goddess. But now, he was researching hand cream textures. This was war. He dragged his best bro into a shopping trip under the excuse of needing help. But let's be honest, Fujimiya couldn't even pick decent shampoo for himself, let alone something to moisturize an angel's divine fingers. His buddy? Chill. Insightful. Had taste. Mahiru? She wanted crepes. Because of course she did. What else could keep this twisted fairy tale grounded besides the smell of sugar, whipped cream, and desperation? So they bought them, side by side, a normal-looking couple, a delusion in broad daylight. And then the gift. A paper bag. Inside, practicality incarnate. Fujimiya, this poor horny warlock, had bought her high-quality hand cream. Because nothing says, I respect you as a person like skincare meant for tired hands that crush onions and male souls with equal force. She noticed. She appreciated. She wasn't disgusted. No screaming. No scolding. No pepper spray. Just acceptance. And that second item in the bag? Yeah, a plush bear. A small, stupidly adorable teddy bear with eyes big enough to house a war crime. He gave it to her like a boy handing his crush's soul on a stick. Her response? She held it, tight, and called it a bonus. What happened next shouldn't have been possible. Mahiru Sheena, cold, perfect, emotionally unavailable Mahiru blushed. She said it was the first time she'd gotten a present like that. Not just from Fujimiya, not just from a boy, ever. She didn't celebrate birthdays. She didn't tell people when her birthday was. Her existence was so above normal life. She made the sun look relatable. But Fujimiya? He noticed. Because she dropped her ID like an amateur. And because he actually gave a damn. That mattered. To her. She didn't need grand gestures. Didn't want jewelry, lingerie, or boy band fan chants. Just a little bear. A bit of thought. A smidge of real care. And for once, the great angel of solitude let her voice crack. Just a bit. She wasn't a stranger to him anymore. She even said it. Out loud. The last thing any normal high school guy wants is his mom barging into his lair uninvited. But of course, Amain wasn't that lucky. Still reeling from the heat of Sheena's presence the night before, the poor bastard opened his door to a bombshell of chaos. His overbearing, overpowered mom. She hadn't come to hug him or check if he was breathing. No, she came to throw live grenades disguised as words and assumptions. And she brought back up. Sheena stood there too, like a porcelain goddess in a sundress, and immediately got sucked into the whirlwind of parental delusion. Amain tried to shut it all down. Cold, direct like a grumpy tax auditor. Thanks for coming. Now go home. But the unfiltered chaos engine that was Shiho, his mom, was already playing mental dress-up with Sheena in a wedding gown. She blasted right past his weak protests and landed the first hit. This apartment? Yeah, it's not even yours. Me and your new mom pay the rent. That one stung. Direct hit to the pride. Instant debuff. -10 to masculinity. Sheena didn't even have time to grab cover before Shiho turned and locked on like a heat-seeking romance missile. Oh my, what a sweet girlfriend. Cue panic. Amain's brain went into overdrive, trying to deny, correct, explain, erase. Sheena looked like she was trying to evaporate into the floorboards. Shiho didn't care. This woman had the emotional subtlety of a flying mallet. If a girl's in your apartment, clearly she wants your DNA. No need to be shy, she teased, eyes gleaming like a pervy priest catching you with your pants down. If Amain chose her, I approve. Sheena's face flushed. Amain shouted into the void. The misunderstanding deepened into a trench of eternal cringe. Just when things couldn't get worse, Shiho turned up the heat by calling Sheena Mahiru-chan like she'd already been adopted into the family registry. Sheena tried to play polite, but the poor girl was cornered by a woman who could weaponize affection. Then came the kicker. Fujimiya-san is too formal. That's when Amain's soul left his body. Sheena stumbled. His mom cheered. Everyone screamed. It was like watching two deer get run over by the truck coolant of parental embarrassment. In the end, there was no escape. No honor. Only awkwardness and the smell of burnt dignity. Once the walking disaster finally left, Amain collapsed like a man who'd just survived a war zone. Sheena, ever the composed angel in disguise, brushed it off like it was nothing. No harm done, she said with that calm tone that made him feel like an idiot for panicking. But deep down, she had taken damage. Not emotional, just exposure. Now the lines were blurry. The air was different. Amain thanked her. She didn't mind, but she noticed something. His mom had called her Mahiru-chan, and that name, her name, felt strange to hear. Nobody called her Mahiru. Not friends. Not family. Her parents didn't even bother. The name was like a luxury item she'd forgotten she owned. So when Amain used it, even softly, even just once, it hit different. Just don't say it outside, she warned, her voice barely above a whisper. He agreed. Their awkward little pact was sealed. First names were an indoor thing. A shared secret. One step closer to intimacy, whether they admitted it or not. When she handed him his house key back, thinking it was time to reset the boundary lines, Amain did the most un-Amain thing ever. He told her to keep it. No hesitation. Just keep it unless we stop talking. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't confident. It was raw, honest. So painfully trusting it made her freeze. And of course, the guy tried to play it cool. It's a pain going to the entrance every time, he mumbled, hiding his sincerity behind a wall of laziness. Sheena wasn't buying it. You're too trusting, she said. He shrugged. I trust you. She stopped arguing. And just like that, the key became more than metal. It became a quiet promise. Grade results came out. The angel, naturally, was top of the class. Again, No one was surprised, but everyone was in awe. She was built different, but no one knew how hard she worked behind the scenes, except Amain. So he did what any confused, socially awkward boy would do. He bought cake. That's right. He walked into a sweet shop and bought a goddamn celebratory cake just for her. And when he handed it over, Mahiru short-circuited. She stammered, said it wasn't a big deal. She always got first, but Amain insisted. A reward was deserved, even if she acted like she didn't need one. And maybe, for just a second, she looked like she was about to cry. Not that she did, but her voice cracked. Then came the feeding. Amain tried to casually offer her a bite. You know, as a totally normal thing people do. Like here, open up with a fork and everything. Mahiru accepted, opened her mouth, took the bite, paused. It was like watching a computer explode from too many tabs. Amain asked how it was, expecting an answer about taste. Mahiru, deadpan, said it was incredibly awkward. They both froze. The sexual tension slammed into the room like a freight train made of butter knives. Mahiru warned him, if you do that to people, they'll get the wrong idea. Like real wrong. And then she got shy, said his food sucked, tried cooking with him anyway. Amain, kitchen newbie and culinary failure, decided he wanted to learn. Because independence? Maturity? Nope. It was 100% because he'd gotten addicted to Mahiru's home cooking and was afraid of withdrawal symptoms. She supervised his attempt. Omelet and stir-fried veggies. His seasoning? Barbecue sauce. On stir-fried vegetables. Mahiru barely blinked, but her soul probably left her body for a second. The omelet? Crumbled to hell. No seasoning. Barely food. She took over. Gave him a hot, fluffy, properly seasoned egg. Amain took a bite. Tasted heaven. And, like a slime-dripping loser on his first date, he blurted out that he never wanted her to stop cooking for him. Mahiru, suppressing a laugh, called him hopeless. But she said it sweetly, and she promised to keep spoiling him. The next day, his idiot friends caught wind of his gifts. Apparently, giving a girl a stuffed animal equals full-blown relationship. Amain denied it, said she was just his neighbor, just a helpful girl who cooked and cleaned and healed his soul with her smile. No big deal. They didn't buy it, especially since Amain had been looking suspiciously alive lately. Sleeping, eating, not dying. They begged to host a Christmas party at his place. He gave in, begrudgingly, but only until dinner. Meanwhile, they kept teasing him about the angel next door. He told them to shut up and get out. Mahiru asked if he had plans for Christmas. He told her about the party, his friends, the usual stuff. She nodded, said that once they left, she'd come over. Just like that. Calm, smooth, soft-spoken. Amain choked on air. Mahiru explained she always turned down invites. Most of her friends had boyfriends anyway. She was used to spending holidays alone. Amain blinked. Again, brain buffering. Mahiru asked, timid, hopeful, if they could spend Christmas Day together. Not Christmas Eve, not some romantic date. Just together, playing games, watching TV. Amain said yes. Snow began to fall. White quiet slow. Amain's apartment, once a den of garbage and emotional rot, now looked cozy, warm, lived in, thanks to her. Mahiru, the angel next door who wasn't his girlfriend. But maybe, just maybe, she could be. He stared out the window, at the snowflakes drifting like blessings from the sky. And then, he heard her voice. Soft, close. He turned. She stood at the door. No umbrella. Just there. The final boss of loneliness had arrived, and she didn't even knock. If awkward silence were a person, it'd be the unwanted guest sitting between these four. But even that silence couldn't hold back the hurricane that was Chitose Shirakawa, a walking, talking, boundary-obliterating nuclear bomb of energy. She wasn't just loud. No, she was invasive. The kind of girl who'd touch your skin and then ask what soap you use after she's already grazed your thigh. She was that friend, the one who broke social codes with a smile and a flirty laugh. 1 second, she's commenting on Mahiru's silky skin. The next, she's practically fondling her like she's shopping for a human-sized plushie. Amain, the resident gloom lord with all the charisma of a damp tissue, tried his best to play it cool. But his poker face cracked every time Chitose teased Mahiru or made flirty comments. His dry, sarcastic remarks bounced off her like marshmallows off a tank. Chitose's voice practically oozed with playful menace as she demanded a blood oath of secrecy. Mahiru's reputation as a pristine ice queen couldn't survive public scrutiny if people found out she was practically playing house with the school's invisible man. And yet, here they were. Chitose's brain-to-mouth filter was permanently disabled. She unloaded compliments on Mahiru like she was speedrunning a dating sim. Flawless features, doll-like eyelashes, and the kind of curves that made grown men reconsider celibacy. The compliments were so specific, it bordered on pervy. Hell, if she got any closer, Mahiru might have needed pepper spray. Amain, useless sack of anxiety that he was, tried to play the night in crusty pajamas, stepping in to stop the madness. His words were half-hearted at best, the emotional equivalent of a soggy tissue shield. Itsuki, the himbo's sidekick with just enough sense to realize this was a powder keg, did his best to be the peacekeeper. He had the charm, sure, but zero subtlety. And when he dropped the best friend of that anonymous guy line, Amain visibly twitched. The truth hurt, and Itsuki threw that truth like a dodgeball straight to the face. Chitose wasn't done. Oh no, she smelled potential drama and dove in headfirst. Her interrogation of Mahiru's cooking prowess was laced with awe and just a dash of jealousy. Mahiru, the humble culinary goddess, explained her skills with the grace of shoujo protagonist. Meanwhile, Amain sat there like a scarecrow that someone stuck a fork in. Mahiru's dishes weren't just good, they were soul food. Her white stew tasted like warm hugs and childhood joy, the kind of flavor that made even a cynic like Amain drop his guard. But this wasn't just about food. This was about connection. For the first time, this broken boy saw someone making something just for him. And that realization hit harder than a truck coin on Isekai duty. Mahiru disappeared into the kitchen, and Amain was left alone with thoughts that screamed louder than Chitose ever could. Would have been nice if their little secret stayed just between the two of them, he mused. Then immediately smacked himself mentally for sounding like the protagonist of a second-rate romance visual novel. Dinner hit the table, and Mahiru's food hit harder than emotional neglect. Each bite was a warm pat on the back he never got growing up. His expressions softened, and Mahiru noticed. Her gaze lingered longer than usual, her words stumbling as she doubted whether someone like her could create happiness for someone else. As if being a divine kitchen waifu wasn't enough. Amain, still wearing his default setting of self-loathing, told her she made him feel genuinely happy. She blushed, and for once, the loser got a win. Nothing says budding intimacy like bumping heads in a cramped apartment. Mahiru leaned, too close too suddenly. Her soft hair brushed his face. Her warmth was close enough to short-circuit his brain. Was it intentional? No. Was it enough to cause a nuclear blush explosion on both ends? Absolutely. Amain panicked like a virgin on prom night, while Mahiru played it cool for all of 2 seconds before crumbling under the weight of her own flustered heartbeat. Their mutual awkwardness was louder than a punk rock concert in a library. And just when things couldn't get more romantically suffocating, she gave him a present. A small box, a humble wrapping, but inside it, a key case. Symbolism practically punched him in the gut. It was like a backhanded confession wrapped in practicality. She said it was entrusted by a jolly old man, but no one was buying that Santa crap. This was Mahiru, perfection incarnate, giving him something meaningful. And the loser? He actually gave a present in return. Scarves, warm fuzzies, and subtle blushes. It was like watching 2 emotionally stunted penguins try to mate. Mahiru noticed something though. Amain's face had changed. His eyes no longer looked like those of a man slowly rotting in loneliness. For once, he looked alive. But this would be a rom-com episode without a twist. Cue Mahiru's fever. Her normally sharp voice dulled, replaced by a soft murmur. But even sick, she insisted on keeping things proper. That lasted for about 5 seconds before Amain, with all the grace of a panicking turtle, offered his room. Not to be outdone, Mahiru told him to lie down or she'd force him. The emotional seesaw teetered wildly between flirtation and concern. It was a fevered delirium of half-spoken truths and not quite confessions. She mumbled something about always being alone. He stayed. Her hand brushed his. He didn't let go. And just like that, a moment of weakness turned into a night of vulnerability. Mahiru's sickness revealed more than just her fragility. For once, she let herself depend on someone. And Amain, broken, boring Amain, was the one who stayed. He fed her. He watched over her. He bantered like a halfway competent protagonist. She noticed a change. He did too. And even though neither could say it out loud, their hearts were slowly sinking to the same rhythm. The loser was becoming something else. A partner. She closed her eyes. Her final words, soft and buried in the weight of sleep. "You idiot. Seriously, you're bad for my heart." And that was that. The angel had fallen, not from grace, but into something far more dangerous than sin. Love. The ancient bell tolled, and Amain stood beside Mahiru in the frozen hush, his greasy-grinned creep self painfully aware he was nothing but an isolated loser crashing her world. Her soft, happy new year hit him like a slap of warmth, but all he felt was the thunder of his own inadequacy, certain he'd prove himself a pervy waste of skin. When her hair brushed his cheek, he forced out a shaky promise to cherish the year, a hollow vow from a slime-dripping loser who'd never believed he deserved a moment like this. After exchanging polite niceties, Mahiru excused herself to answer a message. Amain, ever the loathsome sneak, stole glances at the phone's glow. He wondered who dared disturb her peace. That Itsuki guy who always involved her mother in every harmless conversation, or some random creep dropping New Year salutations. The screen's reflection distorted into his own ugly face, and he flexed his fingers, itching to reach out. When Mahiru settled back down without showing her hand, he realized just how exposed she was, curled into someone else's bed, deep in innocent slumber. He loathed himself for the momentary thrill that coursed through his veins. The moral voice in his head argued that he should return her home, slip out like a proper gentleman, but every fiber of his depraved being screamed, "Stay." His reasoning crawled through 3 filthy, garbage heap possibilities. Jolt her awake and look like a slime-slathered jackass. Sneak her key from her coat and sneakily deposit her at the doorstep. Definitely illegal. Or let her sleep as long as she wanted and trash his own slovenly sofa. Of course, option 3 won. He was a pervert, but not a savage. She deserved comfort. Damn him, more than his ragged dignity. So he stripped off his hoodie, folded it neatly as a pillow, and lay awake on the thin sofa. He admired the rise and fall of her chest, the gentle curve of her eyelashes, each feature a cruel reminder that he, a pitiful worm, had no right to be here. Yet still he lingered, trapped by his own affection and his vile craving to protect her. Morning light dripped through the blinds like molten gold, and Mahiru stirred, blinking sleep from her eyes. He sheepishly welcomed her good morning, heart hammering so loud he was surprised she couldn't hear it in the next room. She sat up and shot him a crooked grin, that mixture of scolding and amusement he'd come to dread and crave in equal measure. He reminded her that she'd slept in his place, so she owed him a thank you. She narrowed her eyes, calling him out for cheek-touching offenses past. Christmas kisses, bedtime skirmishes, each incident filed away in her gentle mind. Amain tried to hide his shame behind a grin as greasy as leftover ramen oil, but she'd been awake at every transgression. She toyed with the idea of demanding recompense, maybe something scandalous from the way she teased, but denied herself. He sighed in relief, yet couldn't stop the blush that spread across his features like spilled ink. The emotional stakes soared higher than any overused anime battle cry. He was underpowered and underbaked, forced to confront his own pervy impulses in broad daylight. No sooner had the morning's awkward hush settled than Amain's father thundered through the door, dragging half his luggage like a freakish behemoth invading their tranquil nest. Shiho-san, the hulking patriarch of this neurotic house, fixed him with a scrutinizing glare that could strip skin. Amain wilted like a weed crushed underfoot, but Mahiru stood tall, greeting the intruder with polite formality. He ruffled her hair, called her hybrid of porcelain and steel, and demanded to know where Amain's mother was. The two of them danced around proprieties. She expressed humble gratitude for his intermittent hospitality. He deflected praise as though it smelled like manure, all while Amain squirmed in the background, waiting for a sign to spring into action. The room buzzed with unspoken tension. A father's scrutiny, a girl's embarrassment, and an ugly bastard boy caught in the crossfire of familial asymmetry. Shiho-san complimented Mahiru's gentle care for his son, an easy target for ego stroking, but then admonished Amain for his sloppiness. The father's booming admonitions bounced off the walls, each messy and ungrateful, a stark reminder of his own lowly status. Yet as he witnessed her spirited defense of him, he felt the warm sting of belonging. Even a hopeless waste of space could bask in fleeting euphoria when attacked by a loving tyrant. Once paternal formalities died down, the conversation veered awkwardly toward Hatsumode, the first shrine visit of the year. Shiho-san presented a dream he'd cherished since his daughter's infancy, dressing her in a kimono and parading her through the sacred grounds. Mahiru's face flamed hotter than the setting sun as she considered joining Amain in this public spectacle. He balked at the public eye. They'd be torn apart by gossip mongers, labeled lovers before their time. Those school assholes were already laser-focused on her. Pervy rumors about hand-holding had reached their ears like a virus. His heart twisted at the thought of people labeling her with his name, her delicate reputation tarnished by proximity to him. But her father's expectations stamped a ticket in his chest. Do it. So he relented, offering to accompany her, to serve as her knight of the madding crowd. A ridiculous premise. A slime-soaked loser dragging a heavenly maiden through the streets under the watchful stare of shrill aunties. But beneath the absurdity lay a fragile promise of trust. He'd defend her honor against every sneer, every wagging tongue. Hours later, Mahiru emerged from her room swathed in crimson and ivory silks, like some ethereal demon queen sprung from myth. The kimono hugged her figure in ways that inflamed his low-rent perversions. The curve of her neck, the tremble of her hands, the ghostly whisper of fabric against skin. He nearly choked on his own drool, but managed to murmur that she looked beautiful. She flicked him a scolding glance. Exactly the wrong kind of praise, according to her, but the corners of her mouth curled into a triumphant smile. "It suits you," he offered lamely, echoing her father's bland script. She rolled her eyes, calling him out on his honest simplicity. In that moment, he felt like a horn dog hero who'd finally earned his spoils, a sense of unearned pride swelling inside his chest. The cold air bit at their faces as they stepped into the shrine's courtyard, translucent lanterns swaying overhead like ghost fire. Mahiru knelt, hands clasped, in earnest prayer, her silence a stark contrast to the raucous cheering of the surrounding crowd. He joined her, fumbling through his own feeble incantation: health, happiness, survival. His wish was simple and cowardly, yet he couldn't utter the truth. That he craved more mornings like this, more moments spent with her, more occasions to be the greasy grin creep she'd reluctantly endorse. After incense smoke settled, they next queued for sweet red bean soup. Ashiruko, peddled by shriveled grandmas with sympathetic eyes. Mahiru tasted a spoonful and hesitated when he offered his. He pretended not to notice her blush, but internal fireworks erupted. She refused at first, battling a storm of embarrassment, then relented with an awkward nod. He dipped his ladle again for animecaps, watching her lips purse around the soup's sweetness. Her vulnerability stirred something primal in him, a fierce urge to shield her from gossip, from cold winds, from unworthy knuckleheads like himself. No sooner had they left the shrine than whispers circled around them like circling vultures. A group of classmates, those slime-dripping vultures of high school, mocked her behind fluttering fans. Shina-san from Class A, they hissed, had finally caved to the advances of a boyfriend. Heard they were holding hands during Hatsa mode. One sneered, adjusting her lipstick like a guillotine about to drop. Mahiru's composure cracked. Her cheeks flared a shocking crimson. Amain stiffened, stepping forward in a blur of crude heroism. He denied it with every fiber of his knotted soul, insisting they were mere acquaintances. His voice trembled, half from the cold, half from rage at those filthy gutter rats for daring to besmirch her name. He swore vengeance on the rumor mill, promising himself he'd bury the lies under truth's debris. The world was already cruel enough to isolated losers, but this February, it was peak carnage. While most normie delinquents dreamed of soft hands passing them heart-shaped boxes, Amain, our emotionally constipated doormat in denial, was mentally filing taxes. Valentine's? That sugary nonsense was a landmine field for emotionally stunted virgins like him. The conversation had started like any other, innocent on the surface, until that hyperactive goblin Chitos opened her loud mouth. She'd come crashing in like a lipstick-smeared Cupid hopped up on caffeine, asking for advice on what kind of chocolate to give her manslave Itsuki. Back in middle school, she'd basically gift-wrapped diarrhea in a wrapper and called it love. Now, she wanted to go fancy. Amain, the king of lukewarm responses, offered her the blandest shrug possible. But Chitos, never one to shut up when she could inject chaos, turned to Mahiru with a bomb. If a guy and a girl are alone, don't you think something's bound to happen? Cute Amain short-circuiting. Internally, the dude was free-falling in slow motion through a void of panic. He barely had the balls to ask for salt at dinner. Getting handsy was light years away on his loser timeline. He didn't even have the nerve to look her in the eyes half the time, let alone mount a hormonal offensive. But Mahiru, the angel next door with the passive-aggressive smile of a disappointed goddess, calmly nuked the entire convo with a single implication. Only if it's mutual, and we're not quite there yet. Translation? You're still a socially anxious goblin who can't take a hint. Valentine's Day turned their school into a hormonal apocalypse. Girls skipped down the hallway, handing out death or chocolate, depending on the recipient. And right in the eye of this saccharine hurricane stood Amain, the human equivalent of a beige wall. Chocolates rained like emotional grenades. Chitos's batch was a culinary war crime, a chocolate Russian roulette lined with sadism, wasabi, habanero, and sour plum jelly of doom. That wasn't a gift. That was chemical warfare with a ribbon on top. And like a spineless snack masochist, Amain took it with a half smile. Meanwhile, Mahiru had been lurking, chocolate in hand, eyes glowing with soft menace. She passed him a small box and told him to look forward to it. That might have sounded sweet, but Amain knew better. This was a test, a minefield. One wrong move, and his entire chance with this divine domestic goddess would implode like a flan in a cupboard. When the bomb squad, aka Mahiru, left with a casual "see you," Amain barely held onto his composure. The sheer contrast between girls giving chocolates with blazing confidence and his own pathetic excuse of an existence wasn't just depressing, it was criminal. In a moment of undeserved mercy, Mahiru slipped him a palate cleanser. Cocoa, not from a vending machine or packet, but handcrafted, chocolate chawed, hot chocolate kissed by her angelic hands. The first sip exploded in his mouth like edible heaven. Rich, sweet, warm. It felt like someone had punched his depression in the face. Mahiru watched him sip it with the quiet smugness of someone who knew she owned his soul. "You made this, just for Valentine's?" he muttered, eyes on the cup like it held the secrets of the universe. She smiled. Innocent, soft, and absolutely lethal. He didn't deserve this. Not the drink. Not her smile. Hell, not even the air she breathed near him. But she kept giving him pieces of herself. Tiny, dangerous, heart-melting pieces. Later, she handed over another chocolate, orangettes. Orange peel delicately coated in dark chocolate, subtle and sophisticated, just like her. He tried to keep it cool. "It's good," he said, cheeks pink, heart screaming. But Mahiru wasn't done emotionally eviscerating him. "I don't even know when your birthday is." Amain blinked. The mental gears ground together like rusted metal. November 8th. And that was it. That one dumb revelation set off a butterfly effect level emotional reaction. They had already known each other by then. She could have celebrated. He could have told her. But nope, he didn't. Because back then, he still thought of her as untouchable. Divine. Someone who'd never see the crumpled trash bag of his life as worth anything. Mahiru's response was devastatingly simple. "I'll celebrate it properly this year." That was it. That was her version of "I want to stay in your life." And Amain? He nearly short-circuited again. White Day prep hit him like a brick to the nuts. The idea of what to give her without seeming too forward made his anxiety spiral into a hurricane. Gifts were messages, after all. Say it with chocolate? Say it with accessories? Say it with a frickin' wedding ring? He was dying. So, of course, Mahiru showed up looking like a final boss of heart attacks. Hair down, eyes sparkling, and just casually too beautiful to legally exist. And our dumbass protagonist? He showed up looking sharp for once. Hair styled. Face not looking like it had just crawled out of bed. A miracle. Mahiru practically malfunctioned. "Why, you're too dazzling. Reed, you're making me feel things, and I hate it." She tried to walk it back, but it was too late. His glow-up had struck her directly in the ovaries. And then came the gift. A bracelet. Not tacky, not flashy, just thoughtful. Paired with a hand-drawn request ticket like some lame manga extra. Yet she adored it. When he offered to put on her wrist himself, her breath hitched. The air got weird. Heavy. It wasn't just cute, it was dangerous. Later, Itsuki cornered him like a rom-com best bro with way too much emotional insight. "You saw her cute, happy face, didn't you?" Amain tried to deny it, but the giddy flush on his face sold him out like a traitorous tomato. Itsuki, forever the wingman, shoved a fry in his face. "Admit it. You like her. You want her. You're already simping harder than a Discord mod during Waifu Week." Amain shoved the greasy stick of truth away, but inside, he knew. He was whipped. Worse than whipped. He was emotionally waterboarded by affection and didn't know how to swim. Back home, Mahiru hit him with another nuke of sweetness. She cared if he was eating enough. "You should gain a little weight," she murmured, poking his ribs. That was when she touched him, just lightly. But for this touch-starved loser, it might as well have been an electric shock. She pulled back, flustered. Sorry, I shouldn't just touch you." His brain melted. His soul ascended. His pants, well, let's not talk about his pants. But then, plot twist. She didn't mind being touched. By you. And just like that, he flatlined. This girl was too powerful. She could collapse empires with a blush and a single sentence. And he was a defenseless little simp, caught in her gravitational pull. As the door clicked shut, the words left his mouth unfiltered. "This really does feel like I have a newlywed wife." And he wasn't wrong. She cooked, cleaned, smiled at him, teased him, gave him gifts, and made him feel like maybe, just maybe, he wasn't a total waste of oxygen. And yet, this loser still hadn't confessed. Still hadn't kissed her, still hadn't grabbed fate by the balls and declared his love like a real man. But make no mistake, something was changing. This wasn't just the angel next door anymore. This was his angel, and she'd just given him the sweetest kind of hell. Amain barely drew air before Mahiru pinned him in an empty classroom, eyes blazing at his look-decent stunt. He confessed, voice trembling, that a fight with his dad left him on edge. Mahiru just grinned, tapping his temple. Akazawa was about to crash his cramped apartment for 3 days, and this horndog invader wasn't slipping in without backup. Itsuki chomped into dinner like it was his last meal before execution, moaning praises at Mahiru's cooking with the subtlety of a moose in heat. His greasy admiration oozed all over the room like a pervert's cologne, stinking up Amain's dignity with every and wow, as he praised her food like a horny monk discovering temptation. Even Chitosa's eyes turned into literal anime stars when she scarfed down Mahiru's heavenly omerus. The second that golden eggy fluff exploded in her mouth, She straight up moaned like she was tasting divine nectar. Amain was inches from face-palming himself into unconsciousness. But the real attack came later. Itsuki, the traitorous clown, dropped a passive-aggressive bomb straight into Amain's lap. How can you say you don't like her when you make that stupidly gentle face every time you look at Sheena? Boom. Busted. That smug, greasy-eyed punk didn't just call Amain out. He freaking nuked the whole vibe. Even Mahiru went quiet, that suspiciously soft look in her eyes trembling like a virgin heart in a rom-com climax. Amain denied it, of course, like the coward he was, blushing, grumbling, deflecting like his soul was allergic to honesty. Then, because this freak show wasn't chaotic enough, Chitose declared her own impromptu vacation stay. Why? Because it was spring break, and apparently, her sense of personal boundaries was as dead as her brain cells. Kitchen duty was supposed to be peaceful. Instead, it turned into a battlefield of accidental touching and emotional landmines. Mahiru, in full wife mode, whipped up another culinary masterpiece while Chitose drooled on the sidelines like a golden retriever watching rotisserie chicken. The egg-based masterpiece, soft, gooey, god-tier omurice, became the latest weapon of mass seduction. Amain's compliments were casual, but his eyes sparkled like he just saw her in a swimsuit. And Mahiru? She blushed so hard, she practically steamed like a dumpling. But she didn't let it end there. When Amain leaned in, maybe a bit too admiringly, she hit him with a verbal whiplash. No sneak attacks. Girl, chill. It was just a compliment, not a confession. Then again, knowing Mahiru's emotional radar, she probably sensed the rising perv energy simmering behind Amain's dead eyes. Chitose, bless her disaster-core soul, tried her best to be involved, praising Mahiru with backhanded compliments that barely passed for social interaction. School Mahiru is boring, she chirped, too clueless to realize she was poking a dragon in a sundress. Mahiru took it like a champ, but that soft smile was hiding the kind of judgment that could evaporate egos. Amain was just trying to chew his food without blushing his brain out when Chitose went full psychoanalyzer. The real Mahiru is cute, she said, twirling her words like a drunk Cupid lobbing flaming arrows. You should let Amain spoil you, she added, basically hurling Mahiru onto Amain's lap with a wink and a smirk. Mahiru panicked. Her denial came fast and loud, like a fire alarm trying to mask a heart-shaped explosion. But no one believed her, not even herself. When Chitose and Itsuki finally scattered like the clowns they were, the kitchen finally breathed. Mahiru offered the bath with that angelic calm. Still reeling from the flirt grenade she tried to pretend didn't hit her soul. Then Chitose, menace incarnate, asked Mahiru to take a photo of Amain for memories, right? Because what every socially withdrawn loner wants is his awkward mug immortalized during a shared bath rotation. Mahiru, of course, did it. Like some obedient but emotionally confused photographer, she snapped the shot while her heart tripped over itself. The photo was meaningless, which was why Mahiru stared at it for 15 minutes afterward like it held the secrets of the universe. With Itsuki off to Chitose's for the rest of break, things should have gone back to normal. Except Mahiru dropped a photo of a teddy bear. The teddy bear, the one Amain picked for her during their not-a-date trip. She hugged it, cleaned it, talked to it, then realized she said all that out loud and practically screamed herself into another dimension. Amain, smug bastard that he was, promised to never forget. Her embarrassment became his newest mental wallpaper. But Mahiru wasn't done self-destructing. She demanded emotional balance. If I embarrass myself, you have to reveal something too. Amain hesitated. Wrong move. She immediately threatened to message Itsuki and expose his dark secrets. The girl was ready to blackmail him with a grin and a contact list. Before he could retaliate, her phone buzzed, and her entire world cracked. Her voice dropped. Her smile died. The other end was poison, a woman oozing venom with every word. Seo Sheena, her mother, more like the walking embodiment of emotional neglect and soul rot. She talked like she was placing a customer service complaint, not discarding her daughter. I hate you. You take after that person. Don't bother me. That wasn't just a stab. That was a full-on surgical dissection. Cold, sharp, permanent. Mahiru's face stayed blank, but her soul cracked like glass dropped from a skyscraper. Amain heard it all, and for once, even his socially inept, emotionally dead brain lit up with rage. But Mahiru shut it down. I'm used to it, she lied like a pro. She's always hated me, right? Like emotional trauma disappears if you say you've gotten used to it. She crumbled. The Ice Queen, the untouchable goddess, shattered into a sobbing girl with nowhere to fall. And she fell straight into Amain's chest. Just for a little bit, she whispered. Let me borrow you. His arms moved on their own, because if he didn't hold her now, she might dissolve. She broke down, sobbing softly, hiccuping apologies, clinging to him like he was the only thing left on Earth that didn't hurt. Amain didn't say anything, just wrapped her in his warmth. Not as a horny loser, but as someone who understood pain. Mahiru, drowning in her own past, started spilling it all. The cold home, the hotel parents, the housekeeper who raised her, the accidental pregnancy, the lifelong burden, the desperate attempts to be good enough. Every sentence was a knife. Every word was a wound that had never healed. I wasn't wanted, she said. No matter how good I was, they never looked at me. She cried. He held her tighter. Mahiru confessed it all. The fake smiles, the fake angel, the act she wore like armor. She hated her real self. Cowardly, selfish, rude, a sharp tongue and a broken heart. But Amain, idiot savior that he was, stared her down like a knight facing a dragon made of sadness. I like you, he said. Not the act, the real you. And it wasn't a line. It was truth. Mahiru, beautiful and ruined, stared at him like he'd just rewritten her entire life. She sobbed harder, not because she was sad, but because she was finally seen. You're more likable than you think. She whispered, I'm blessed. Amain scoffed. No, you're not. And yet, she still smiled. She reached for him. Please keep looking at me. Amain, stunned, nodded. I'm watching. I've always been watching. She pulled him closer. Then hold me. Wrap me up. Just for today. She curled into him, her body trembling, her heart finally letting go. He held her like she was made of glass and fire all at once. And in that fragile, quiet moment, Mahiru Shina finally stopped being an angel and became something far more dangerous. Real. The next day, the storm had passed. Mahiru stood under the cherry blossoms like a painting brought to life. She turned, blushing, whispering thanks. Amain fumbled, muttered something stupid. She smiled anyway. I'm glad you were there. And then, because the world hates emotionally constipated boys, she said the words that shattered him. Keep watching me. Don't look away. He agreed. Instantly. Then came the kicker. Don't look now. I'll get mad. And of course, being the dumb virgin he was, he looked. His brain fried. His soul left his body. Because somehow, this wasn't just a pretty girl anymore. This was Mahiru, the real one. And she was letting him in, just for today. Amain dragged his corpse into another school year. And surprise, surprise, the gods of fate were giggling like drunk schoolgirls. Itsuki had transferred in with zero warning, slapping the school's social structure like a wild card in a game of loneliness poker. The smug bastard grinned, while Mahiru's name dropped like a bomb. Yup, same class. Again, Fujimiya's stomach churned like expired curry. Being seated near the literal angel of the school meant every boy within a 5-desk radius was now fantasizing about feeding him to a crocodile. Meanwhile, Mahiru sauntered up with that smile that could melt glaciers and castrate men on sight. Same class. Again, for her, it was casual. For him, it was like being strapped to a chair while your crush injects you with slow-acting poison, and you're smiling through it because you're too emotionally illiterate to realize it's love. Mahiru wasn't just the school angel. She was a menace. A soft-spoken tyrant who weaponized kindness like a dominatrix with a halo. Amain was already emotionally off balance when she decided, without warning, to treat him like a stuffed animal. She pulled him down like a limp sack of depression and rested his head on her lap like she was prepping him for an execution via thigh suffocation. May I touch it? She said. His brain immediately combusted. She meant his hair. But tell that to his pervy, zero-luck brain that had already imagined 47 R-rated scenarios in 3.6 seconds. He tried to wriggle free, but no, her legs locked like a steel trap of righteousness. What if I do something improper? He croaked, because apparently even his survival instincts were malfunctioning now. She didn't even blink, just offered to stomp him into oblivion if he tried anything. And honestly, not a bad deal. She stroked his hair with all the precision of a professional soul healer, sending him straight into a coma of comfort he absolutely did not earn. He laid there like a tragic trash bag with trust issues, overthinking every second of contact like a virgin monk exposed to thigh-based gospel. And yet, she said he looked peaceful, cute even, like some half-dead cat left on her doorstep. Mahiru dropped the psychological nuke right there on the tatama floor. She was holding back, not just emotionally, physically, socially, romantically, because of appearances, because of the way people might whisper, because she didn't want people knowing she cared about a guy who looked like a background NPC with a tragic backstory and chronic self-esteem rot. Amain, idiot that he was, tried to talk like a noble martyr, like keeping his distance was somehow protecting her. But all it did was make her more pissed off than a cat locked in a vacuum. She wanted to be treated equally, like everyone else. If she was going to publicly endure this emotional dumpster fire called friendship, she damn well wanted to stop pretending they were strangers in public. At home, normal. At school, she wanted a little more. But he, being a professional coward, threw a towel over his head, and cried internally. He knew this lap pillow session would come back to haunt him like the ghost of sexually repressed decisions. Still, she let him sleep. She let him rest. She even promised to wake him, like some kind of sadistic guardian angel of introverts. By the time Amain returned from the arcade, Mahiru greeted him like a housewife straight out of a delusional hentai dream. Cute apron, warm voice, innocent question about what's in the bag that made his neurons short-circuit. She wasn't just curious, she was teasing him again. The bunny plushie he won? Too childish? Too embarrassing? Nope, she freaking loved it. He tried to downplay it. She called him out, watching his face contort like he just swallowed an entire cactus of awkwardness. Then she dropped the hammer. Guilt tripped him into realizing that while she received gifts, kindness, warmth, she hadn't given him Jack in return. Not that he ever asked, but Mahiru, she wasn't having that imbalance. So what did she offer? Pudding. Homemade. Eggy. Thick. Emotionally saturated pudding. This girl knew how to cook feelings into food, and he was about to eat it like a man on death row. The pudding was illegal. Too delicious. Too soft in the middle. Too warm with affection. Mahiru played it off like nothing. Like her culinary skills weren't equivalent to a full-body confession laced with custard. Amain naturally panicked. He praised her cooking like a caveman discovering fire. She panicked too, a blushing mess of tsundere awkwardness. "I'll do the cleanup," she barked, voice trembling, trying to hide the fact that she just nearly melted from being called amazing. He offered his thanks again, a simple word, but for her, it was like receiving a confession, a proposal, and a marriage certificate signed in chocolate syrup. She called him a dummy, which in girl speak meant she was seconds away from ascending in a love-struck orbit. Lunchtime, the battlefield of school status and silent stares. Amain found himself cornered by classmates like a deer at a hunter's convention. Itsuki and Katawaki weren't just bros anymore. They were accessories in this unfolding social drama. Mahira noticed. Oh boy, she noticed. The way he laughed with them. The way he looked too comfortable. Too free. Too normal. Her angelic smile began to crack. "I'm fine," she said, which was universal code for "I'm emotionally combusting and you're too dense to notice." Amain, dumb but not completely brain-dead, tried to dig for answers. And what he found was jealousy. Pure, green-eyed, emotionally weaponized jealousy. Mahiru didn't like that Katawaki got to talk to Amain freely. That Chitose and Itsuki could hover near him without judgment. She, the literal angel, was left watching from the sidelines, pretending not to care. She confessed her heart was small. Spoiler, it was actually massive, but wrapped in layers of insecurity that even her wings couldn't fluff away. Mahiru wanted equality. She didn't want to be the secret girl behind a closed door. She wanted to be seen with him, near him, beside him, at school, in public. She didn't care about the rumors anymore. She didn't want to be the hidden prize, locked away like a guilty secret. She wanted to treat him like the real thing. Amain, of course, deflected with more cowardice. "Suspicion," he said. "People might talk." Mahir didn't care. She'd already made up her mind. Little by little, she was going to erase that emotional distance, and she didn't need permission to do it. By the time the cooking class began, their entire dynamic had already shifted. In a cruel twist of fate, the cooking class turned into a sitcom from hell. Chitose was the chaos engine. Itsuki, the clueless husband. Amain, the reluctant dad, figure holding a spatula like a sword. Mahiru slipped into their group naturally. Almost too naturally. They bickered like newlyweds. They prepped like a domestic duo. And when the kitchen antics exploded into near-knife splash disaster territory, Amain body blocked the splash zone like a horny linebacker protecting his waifu's apron. He didn't touch her because he wanted to. He did it because danger. But Mahiru blushed like he had just kissed her neck, which made him blush like a malfunctioning toaster. Later, when the madness settled, Amain collapsed like a broken robot and Mahiru gave him the most potent, dangerous, high-grade affection known to mankind, a sincere thank you, and a head pat. Not his to give, hers to receive. She leaned in, vulnerable, fragile, whispering things about loneliness, jealousy, and wanting to be seen. Not just looked at, seen. He patted her head. Only hers. Always hers. And for a moment, just one flickering instant, the gloom lifted from both their hearts. But Mahiru's final whisper cut deeper than any shout. "How far do I have to go before you truly see me?" Amain froze, because for all his cooking, cuddling, head patting, and putting praise, he still hadn't answered the question. Golden Week, the holy grail of school breaks. But for one emotionally constipated mophead named Amain, it was just another stretch of meaningless hours threatening to crush him under boredom. This worm-brained shut-in sat around like a hollow NPC waiting for a side quest. His only plan? Teaching Chitose, the culinary equivalent of a fire hazard, how not to blow up a kitchen. So, when the radiant goddess next door, Mahiru, the celestial menace with a smile that could melt tungsten, asked if she could borrow a day, he didn't even pretend to resist. She wanted him to carry her bags. That was it. Her royal decree from heaven's shopping district. And this soggy noodle of a man agreed faster than a simp at a swimsuit handshake event. But Mahiru, she wasn't just dragging him into consumer hell. No, she wanted this to be fun for both of them. She wanted them to enjoy themselves, like a damn couple on a date. The kind of thing this filthy loner never even dared to imagine. And when she shyly dropped the bomb, a cat cafe, his soul left his body. Not because it was embarrassing, because it was cute. And not just the cats. Her. Every damn word she dropped was a trap laced with sweetness and sugar-coated innuendo. This was war, a war of restraint, and he was losing, and thus began the most dangerous cooking class this sorry excuse for a man had ever witnessed. Mahiru, the divine instructor. Chitos, the chaos monkey in human skin. Amain, the unwilling food taster. And the one whose digestive tract was on the line. Peeling shrimp turned into a flirt fest, and Mahiru leaning against him turned into a full-blown scandal. He dozed off for 2 seconds, and this cheeky angel used it as an excuse to snuggle up like it was a damn honeymoon. Then she confessed, not her feelings. Worse, she admitted to fondling his cheeks and playing with his hair like he was a damn stress ball. She even threw in a creepy little giggle about how your sleeping face is too cute to resist. This was not mercy. This was slow, psychological evisceration via wholesome assault. And he took it, like the submissive little shrimp peeler he was. Golden Week hit like a tidal wave of awkward tension and suppressed thirst. Mahiru stepped out with her hair up, casual cat cafe vibes, and this poor bastard had the gall to call her cute with a straight face. And she didn't even explode. Nope. She offered him her hand. And like a virgin knight pledging to a demon queen, he took it. It was cats. So many cats. Furry, fluffy distractions from the real animal in the room. Mahiru's increasingly unhinged desire to mess with his already fried emotional core. She couldn't even drink her cat face latte because it was too cute. She got white froth on her lip, and this sly fox snapped a photo like some paparazzi pervert on a mission. Then a cat curled up in her lap, and Mahiru looked at him like she was waiting for belly rubs too. And just when he thought he might survive the caffeine overdose of adorableness, she asked the fatal question, "Do I really resemble a cat to you?" He dodged. Poorly. But she knew. Oh, she knew. This wasn't just some cute little trip. This was a baited walk into the romantic slaughterhouse, and he was the main course. Nothing screamed public danger like Mahiru in a changing room. She picked out an outfit, vanished behind a curtain, and left Amain in the wild. Alone. Exposed. And that's when it happened. The predator approached. A random girl, flashing fake sympathy and discount-level flirtation, slithered over and offered him tea like he was some lost child. But Mahiru came back. Like a queen returning to claim her territory, she sidestepped the intruder and casually locked arms with her stunned prey. Exit stage left. They hit the arcade next. But this wasn't just button mashing. Mahiru poured her soul into a claw machine. Her expression twisted in a maddened grin of, "I will get that plush or die trying." And when she won it, she gave it to him. This little stuffed animal, no bigger than her ego, was now his problem. She said it was because Silk-chan liked it. Translation, she wanted him to have a part of her. Something to hold on to. Something close. The real kicker? He said he'd put it on display, but not by his pillow like some people. She almost exploded. He was playing with fire, and the match was already lit. Of course, the pretty boy had to show up. Katawaki, Mr. Tall, toned, and tooed him nice for his own good. The class heartthrob who somehow stumbled into their quiet little moment like a wrecking ball made of sincerity. He didn't shout or flirt. He just asked the question straight up. "I didn't know you had a boyfriend, Shina-san." And like a rusty vending machine, Amain sputtered and denied everything. But Mahiru didn't look too convincing either. Her face went redder than a tomato in a sauna. Katawaki was sharp. He noticed. He even teased Amain, calling him cool and cleaned up. It was a gentle compliment, but it felt like a shotgun blast to this walking self-esteem disaster. And when Mahiru asked him not to tell anyone, Katawaki respected that. He bowed out mature and chill, which only made it worse. Because now Amain had no excuse. No villain to hate. No enemy to project onto. Just the truth. Someone saw them together, and it looked real. After the boy band interruption, Mahiru was unusually quiet. Apologetic. Nervous. Vulnerable. She said sorry. For getting caught. For dragging him into her world. For existing, basically. And Amain, this beta bug finally grew a spine and said it didn't matter. Because honestly, it didn't. It wasn't about hiding. It was about them. Still, Chitose later dropped the reality bomb with all the subtlety of a wrecking ball. Girls don't go into guys' rooms unless they like them or feel totally safe. Translation? Mahiro trusted him. Maybe too much. And then she dropped the nuke. So, do you like Shina-san? The world stopped. The ceiling fell. The air got thick enough to drown in. And this idiot finally admitted it. Yeah, he liked her. So what? It wasn't a confession. It was a scream into the void, raw and half-choked with shame. But it was true, and that made it lethal. Amain returned home, emotionally scrambled, spiritually disemboweled, only to walk into Mahiro smuggling something on her phone like she was hiding government secrets. Turned out it was worse. His mom had sent her baby pictures. This was war. Again, he lunged, grabbed her, and accidentally pinned her to the damn couch. Their faces were inches apart. Her breath tickled his skin, and this cheeky little gremlin just giggled and said he made a weird face. That's it. No screaming. No panique. Just a smug little smirk from the angelic succubus who had this poor bastard wrapped around her dainty finger. He backed off, apologized like a gentleman. But deep down he knew she'd won. Again, while the other normie zombies were out buying last-minute roses for their saintly moms, our pathetic hero, Amain, sat there with the charisma of a crumpled tissue. His idea of honoring Mother's Day? Sending a lazy bouquet and a bargain bin trinket by courier. Because why risk emotional connection when you can outsource guilt with FedEx? Mahiro, the goddess in human clothing, tried to tease out some honest effort from the emotionally constipated Amain. But this dude could barely sort socks without triggering a domestic disaster. His attempts to help were legendary, for increasing work, not decreasing it. The idea of him touching a vacuum cleaner? Straight up horror. Of course, Mahiro poked the hornet's nest of his pathetic home life. Not out of malice, but curiosity. That innocent nudge opened Pandora's box, and inside wasn't trauma, but a steaming pile of trust issues and high school melodrama marinated in repressed tears. He tried to play it cool. No big deal, he claimed, like some discount anime protagonist with dead eyes and a heart held together by denial tape. Said he left his hometown cause he didn't want to see some people. Translation, he got used, abused, and dumped like expired milk. Mahiro, armed with the emotional IQ of a saint and the social subtlety of a sledgehammer, saw through his paper-thin armor. She called BS, not cruelly, but honestly. Her voice didn't accuse. It healed, but it cut deep. Turns out our sweet little sad boy grew up pampered, financially stable, loved, the whole childhood deluxe package. But he had the judgment of a brick. He trusted everyone. That made him an easy target for two-faced bloodsuckers in fake friend clothing. They leached off his kindness, bled his wallet, and left behind a hollow husk with a smile stitched into his face like a cursed plushie. And yeah, he knew not everyone was rotten. But after enough betrayals, even kindness looks like a loaded gun. So he fled, hoped that starting over would let him stop flinching at the idea of friendship. Mahiru's response? She didn't go all "I'm so sorry" or fake sympathy. She grabbed that guilt by the throat and called it out. You don't get to compare sadness, she said, basically drop-kicking the pity party. Her pain didn't invalidate his, and vice versa. She'd leaned on him in her own moments of despair, and now it was payback time. Emotional debt collection. And unlike other guys, he wouldn't get to milk her guilt to get her to gobble his glizzy. But this fool's pride kept kicking. Don't spoil me, he whimpered. Too bad, she grinned. She steamrolled that resistance with sweet vengeance, smothering him in so much affection that even his shut-in defense matrix short-circuited. She wasn't just offering comfort. She was demanding it, and it was lethal. She wanted him spoiled, melted, and rebuilt into a proper, emotionally literate human being. One cuddle at a time. Amain made one fatal mistake. He looked away, just once. But Mahiru's sixth sense for emotional cowardice caught it instantly. I'm still a guy, you know, he said, blushing harder than a summer tomato. Mahiro, with the poise of a queen who just got proposed to by a worm, countered, yeah, I'm aware. You're not that deep. They tangled in a mess of half-jokes, dodged admissions and double meanings so thick you could choke on the tension. Mahiro called herself sneaky. Amain played dumb. She called him an idiot. He called her worse. But they danced around the obvious. This wasn't just flirting anymore. It was war. Rumors slithered through school like sewer rats. Mahiro had been spotted in public. With a boy. Gasp. Interrogation squads formed. The gossip mafia demanded answers. Mahiro served a vague truth sandwich with a side of spicy ambiguity. He's the most important person to me, she declared. She didn't whisper it. She dropped it like a bomb, knowing exactly what it would do. Because if you can't kill a rumor, you strangle it with precision. Let them think what they want, but let it be on her terms. And Amain? This emotionally paralyzed broomstick? He stood there, trying not to pass out from sheer affection overload. She was honest. Brutally so. He didn't deserve it. But she gave it anyway. Amain dropped a shocker, He was going to start training, as in moving, with his legs, voluntarily. Mahiru almost laughed herself into another dimension. The idea of this goblin abandoning his cozy gamer cave to get swole? Comedy gold. But the real twist was this. He wasn't doing it for looks. He wanted to become a man worthy of standing beside her. Mahiru, the sly devil, offered a reward system straight out of the Eki Encouragement Handbook. If you rank in the top 10 on your test, I'll do anything you ask. Anything. Cue panic. Cue blush. Cue 1,000 suppressed thoughts stampeding through a main's brain like naked otakus at a maid cafe. Mahiru came in swinging with a dream confession. She dreamed of tempting him and felt guilty about it. Our boy nearly combusted. This wasn't just your typical, oops, I tripped into your lap, Eki scenario. This was psychological warfare. She described it like it was scientific data, studied his reactions, measured his blood pressure, weaponized her own embarrassment like some horny Sith Lord. Meanwhile, Amain flailed helplessly. He tried to run, emotionally. She blocked every exit. This wasn't seduction. It was sweet torture, and she knew exactly what she was doing. Both of them were first-timers. Emotionally, romantically, physically, it was painfully obvious. So when Mahiru started talking about first experiences, Amain nearly fainted. Not from arousal, from sheer social anxiety. She asked him not to look. His gaze might melt her, and honestly, hers might detonate him. They sat there, two hormonal disasters pretending not to crave skin contact like dehydrated succubi. But deep down, the tension thickened. The silence screamed. They prepped for a group study session, and Mahiru, that angel of domestic domination, prepped enough food to feed a baseball team. Chito showed up and got instantly bulldozed by Mahiru's unholy cooking skills. The girl clearly lived there now. There was no denying it. She was basically Amain's wife, minus the official paperwork and awkward parental introductions. Of course, Chitos was hopeless. Studying with her was like tutoring a cat on algebra. But Mahiru was patient, deadly patient. And Amain? He watched it all, realizing he might already be ruined. But damn if it didn't feel good. Mahiru dropped the hammer. I only give to people I want to give to, she purred, staring down Amain like a lioness about to smother her prey with affection. He tried to clap back, but the man had the self-esteem of a soggy napkin. She was better, stronger, more stable, but she chose him. And now, she offered him the one thing every useless, isolated, greasy-faced nerd secretly dreams of: permission to be utterly, hopelessly dependent. Let me ruin you, she whispered, metaphorically undressing his defenses one word at a time. And ruin him she did, in the best, most dangerous way possible. She dangled the promise of a reward like a juicy carcass in front of an ugly, slime-dripping loser. Amain's cheeks heated as she offered to grant any whim, if only he cracked the top 10. His thoughts scrambled faster than a horny, wrecking ball crashing through logic. What would he ask for? A triumphant cock and balls emoji? A lifetime supply of ramen? No. The twisted nerve of this pervy waste of skin froze at her gaze. She saw his trembling, pathetic desire and leaned closer, whispering that she'd clean his ear. He locked eyes with that greasy-grinned creep Mahiro, hard in tatters. This was a guy's fantasy. She sprung her trap. Stay still. Does it hurt? The air thickened with Eki tension as she invited him down the rabbit hole of embarrassment and secret longing. Time stretched like a slimy tendril as filthy gutter rat, Amain, sat paralyzed. Mahiru's slender fingers, perilously near his eardrum, moved with teasing precision. Every gentle stroke sent shivers racing down his spine. He, a busted, isolated loser, hid his mortification behind shaky grin. Feels good, he whispered, caught between relief and mortification. She cocked her head, labeling him a real boy for once, and teased how it was a pervert's wet dream. The tension hammered his skull, part agony, part illicit thrill. Then she purred for him to turn, threatening that if he did, his deepest shame would spill. He panicked, too late. The fragile boundary shattered, and his face blazed hotter than magma. Mahiru smirked like a nude bull in a china shop, fluffing his hair. The touch lingered, branding him in ways no slice of life episode ever dared to show. Mahiru clung to him like a clingy limpet, refusing to let go. His arms felt like a tomb, and her weight pressed into him as though trying to squeeze every ounce of dignity from his bones. He muttered about going home, school tomorrow, responsibilities, sanity, but she pressed on. You make me want to spoil you and touch you. She stroked his hair with the worshipful fervor of a horn dog hero. Every fiber of his being recoiled and yearned simultaneously. He obliged her request to walk her home, each step a dance on the edge of delirium. The night air crackled, an electric haze of teenage hormones and whispered confessions. She swore she was being ruined, her voice dripping with theatrical melodrama. And he, the isolated loser, silently vowed to survive this beautiful, excruciating ordeal. At her threshold, Amain refused to cross into the sanctum of her room. This was his line. No way he'd stay. His gut twisted, nerves screamed. She offered the key back, all sweetness and fawn-laden invitation, but he bolted. The prospect of staying overnight with this filthy, too precious wrecking ball of a girl was terrifying. He dashed off into the night, ashamed, heart pounding like a warped percussion instrument. Mahiru watched his retreating back, a fragrant ghost of summer perfume lingering in the doorway. He thought he'd escaped, but the memory of her breath, her warmth, would haunt him until sunrise. Morning broke with sunbeams stabbing through curtains. Amain, smelly, groggy, hair askew, showed up at Mahiru's door to return the key. She greeted him, amber eyes sparkling, as though greeting a treasured pet. But there was something else, worry, maybe? When she realized her photo frame was missing, panic fluttered across her face. He didn't dare confess to anything beyond stuffing the key back into her shaking hand. Instead, he babbled about the bear plushie she hugged at night, the absurd collection of stuffed animals he'd foolishly gifted. She turned crimson, whispering about unnecessary details. He, the ugly, isolated loser, watched her unravel, the bond between them deepening in those stolen moments of vulnerability. His pulse thundered as he admitted hearing her in her sleep, calling him over, patting the spot beside her. She exploded into embarrassment, face aflame, denying it was a cuddle request. But he stood firm. She had beckoned him, sought his warmth. She spluttered that it was nothing but comfort, a mere longing for a little heat. He teased her, edge sharpened like a blade. "Does that mean you wanted me?" She stammered, backpedaling, yet her trembling lips betrayed her. In that electrifying standoff, the world around them vanished. All that mattered was their breath, their racing hearts, and the unspoken promise shimmering between them. Later, she summoned him again, this time to inspect her summer uniform. The greasy grin creep of a boy noted the shift to bare legs and panicked. She stood before him, legs exposed to the dawn light, as though presenting herself at an exhibition. His brain short-circuited. Was she daring him? Tempting him? He spluttered about guys staring. She taunted him that he did stare, recalling the twisted urgency when she twisted her ankle. He denied ulterior motives, but she cornered him, demanding the truth. He backed down, promising to mind his gaze, and she slipped into stockings with a triumphant smile. His heart lurched. The stockings, that simple fabric, became a barrier between fantasy and reality, and she chose for him. Plans for a carefree detour after school dissolved when Mahiru asked him to staple sports festival printouts. He felt the cruel weight of responsibility crush his flimsy dreams of spontaneous date. They traded excuses, half-lies, until the stapler snapped shut on the last sheet. He apologized for stealing her time. She scoffed, reminding him he chose to spend it. The air crackled with tension, absurdly dramatic for two teens lugging papers in a stuffy clubroom. And yet, every stapled sheet sealed their connection, binding them in a secret pact against the world. As they left the room, Amain asked if she was bothered by the gossip swirling at school. Mahiru shrugged off concern. Her public persona was a pristine idol, but inside, she harbored the bruises of silent judgment. He probed gently, pointing out how some girls might resent her, how a guy drooling over her could spark envy. She countered with cold logic. Those who disliked her hated her appearance or social standing, not her core self. He pressed on, comparing her to another popular girl, Katawaki's crush. She scoffed at the idea, claiming no romantic interest. In that exchange, their roles shifted. He became the protector, the one who truly saw her, and her barriers cracked. He observed the contrast between her strict angel facade and her shy reality. She bristled, insisting she had no split personality. He teased that her accidental touches, brushing his arm, patting his shoulder, were deliberate pleas for connection. She sputtered indignantly, sometimes intentional, sometimes not. But he wasn't fooled. Each giggle, each blush, each flash of vulnerability was a confession. He warned her, careless gestures could mislead other guys. She shot back that she only acted that way with him. He held that truth like a treasure, vowing to shield it from prying eyes. Their steps slowed as dusk settled once more. Mahiru confessed a startling revelation. She no longer wanted to be the perfect angel everyone adored. She craved authenticity. If someone truly saw her, her awkwardness, her bashful heart, she could cast aside her guard. She asked him, with trembling honesty, to keep watching her more. He remembered his promise. He would. Relief and pride warred in his chest. She glowed with a newfound determination. no longer content to hide behind smiles and compliments. He felt a surge of protectiveness, tinged with fear that someone else might glimpse the real Mahiru before him. She was too much for him, so he said it. "I'm not good enough for you." She kissed him, then ran, skirt fluttering, heart stolen. He stood there, kissed, wrecked, and utterly ruined. But did that kiss turn him into a man? Of course not. The dude was still an awkward wreck, slouching around like his spine was allergic to confidence. The next day at school, he acted like nothing happened, which was impressive, considering every cell in his virgin body was probably screaming, "Holy hell, she touched your face with her lips." Instead, he just wandered around like a sleep-deprived monk in a school of degenerates. Mahiru? Oh, she was playing it cool. Too cool. Like she hadn't just executed a kiss-and-run mission in front of fate itself. Her friends started poking the situation with the sharpest stick they could find. Borrowing race? Committee head? Everyone asking if they'd fought, broken up, made out, started dating, ended dating, declared war, because apparently their entire class was made of gossip-thirsty hyenas. And Fujimiya? He deflected like a champ. Or more accurately, like a coward. A sweaty, denial-soaked coward trying to pretend he hadn't just gotten lip-robbed by the hottest girl in school. After the class comedy hour died down, Mahiru slid back into a space like a panther in lip gloss. She apologized for bailing on dinner, like that was the crime here. As if she hadn't just nuked his soul with a kiss and left him mentally short-circuiting for 12 hours. She played the whole thing off as impulse, or maybe revenge. Girl, what kind of biblical punishment system is that? He accidentally kissed her once, and she returns fire with a sneak attack the next day like she's evening out the score? They started bantering like awkward idiots. She teased, he squirmed. She stared, he melted. It was basically emotional waterboarding, torturous and slow. And when she picked a team color for the sports fest, it was like flirting disguised as logistics, which, in a way, is the most dangerous type of flirting. Then came the borrowing race. Cute, internal screaming. Everyone else thought it'd be funny. Goo, wholesome, whatever. But when the prompt was revealed, someone important to you, and Mahiru grabbed Fujimiya like a princess claiming her man-shaped luggage, the crowd went absolutely feral. 2 seconds later, they were crossing the finish line like newlyweds at the Olympics of awkward tension. Then came a mic drop. The prompt from Mahiru? Someone important. And she chose him. This ugly, antisocial scarecrow of a boy who looked like puberty hated him. And yet there she stood, holding his metaphorical hand like she was proud of this half-evolved man-blob. The peanut gallery went full Karen mode. Why, they barked. Why not someone hotter, buffer, better? And Mahiru? She verbally suplexed them into the dirt. She unleashed an emotional monologue that could melt titanium. She described him with the kind of tenderness usually reserved for wedding vows and final boss redemption arcs. Calm, kind, considerate, warm. The type of guy who doesn't talk trash or ruin people's lives. She basically said, yeah, he's a potato, but he's my potato, and he treats me like a person instead of an objectified fantasy. Then she looked around, dared anyone to talk back, and stood there like a goddess who just banished all fake friends from her kingdom. Even allowed his clowns back down, jaws snapped shut like cheap suitcases. They couldn't argue. Not when the angel herself had just declared a trash-tier loser as her person. They sat down to eat lunch like nothing happened, but the air between them was so thick it needed chainsaw. A main Kuin looked like he was trying to solve a Rubik's Cube with his soul. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words lodged in his throat like emotional shrapnel. She beat him to it. Mahiru apologized, said she was sorry for dragging him into the spotlight and causing drama. She knew what she was doing, and she did it anyway. He could have been mad, should have been mad, but instead, he just smiled like an emotionally damaged raccoon who'd found a warm blanket. And then came the real gut punches. She said she was afraid someone would take him away. He said he felt unworthy of her love. 2 emotional disasters in a full-blown confessional freefall. And then, Mahiru confessed, like really confessed. She admitted she'd never believed she could fall in love until she met him. That her past had made her cold, afraid, closed off, but this slimy loser of a boy had changed that. She started wanting to be close, wanting to touch him, wanting to protect him. Her voice cracked, her eyes sparkled, her soul opened like a damn flower in bloom. He confessed back. He didn't see himself as worthy. He thought loving her made him insane. But now, he wanted to earn her love, desperately, not just receive it like a charity case. He wanted to be better, be someone she could show off to the world without people laughing. And so he said it. I love you. Will you go out with me? Mahiru didn't hesitate. She smiled with the kind of warmth that would make Satan cry. And then, just to seal the deal, she promised she'd treasure him, too, just as much, forever. It was the happiest ending a human trash bag like Fujimiya could ever dream of. The angel didn't just forgive him, accept him, or pity him. She chose him. chose the shy, awkward, sloppy-haired, antisocial waste of high school real estate. And he vowed to never let go. This was no fantasy. This was reality.